Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Cal's Call video channel series. So what we're going to be talking about in this one is going to be NFL rookie QBs. We're going to go over the final season reports, basically just go over the grades there. So talking about rookie QBs, obviously number one, you have to talk about Baker Mayfield, the best one of the bunch. And that is totally with bias and without bias. He's definitely my favorite of this group. That's the reason why he went number one overall. I think he's supremely talented. Looking at the stats this year, he finished off with 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 3,725 all-purpose yards, and passing yards, and 93.7 quarterback rating, courtesy of NFLstats.com. So, Baker, obviously the number one pick. Let's give him a grade. Let's talk about him. I think he had some great games this season. I think two of his best came against Cincinnati. Obviously, his old head coach, Hugh Jackson, no love lost there. He definitely dominated out there, showed how great of a quarterback he could be. I believe 4 touchdowns in the first game. Yeah, 4 touchdowns in the first game against the Bengals, 3 touchdowns in the second game against them. He's great. He finds his receivers. He places the ball well. He can scramble out of the pocket and still throw the ball with great accuracy. I think he has a super bright future in this league. I think he's 100% the face of the future for the Cleveland Browns. And if I'm a Browns fan, I'm extremely excited. And I actually am a Browns fan, so I'm extremely excited. So, obviously, him being the number one overall pick, you kind of have to weigh it correctly. He didn't play to begin the season. I think if he did, he runs away with the rookie touchdown record. So with that in mind, considering that he really didn't start playing until the season was about 3-4 weeks in. He came in, played against the Jets in week 3, and then from week 4, he just took it outright, the starting position from Tyrod Taylor. I think he deserves an A. I would give him an A. I don't know about an A+. He did well. He did extremely well, and for as well as he had the Browns playing at the end of the season, he may deserve an A+. But an A+ to me is getting your team to the playoffs, taking them far as a rookie. Even as a rookie QB, I have very high standards for you to get an A+. But I think he deserves a solid A. As a number one overall pick, you're supposed to come in, rejuvenate the franchise, get them on a good winning streak, win them some games, maybe not into the playoffs, but at least a good amount of games, and show them that there is definitely hope for the future. Baker Mayfield did that and then some. He has all of Cleveland excited for next season. I hope he doesn't disappoint. I think he won't. I think he has all the mental fortitude in the world. This guy is going to be the real deal for the longest time in the league. So with that in mind, I would give him a solid A. Moving on to the next guy is going to be Sam Darnold, number 3 overall pick. This guy, statistically, he doesn't pop out too much at you. 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions on the season, 2,865 yards, and a rating of 77.6, of a QB rating of 77.6. Looking at that, he had a couple games where he stood out. I think with a better offensive line, he'd have a much better season. The Jets' offensive line is definitely one that's in rebuild right now. I think once they get some better players across the board for that line, he'll perform a lot better. He does have some weapons on the offense, although he does need some better receivers. Anunwa, I think he's very talented. He's more of a number 2, though. They need to get a true number 1 in there, unless Anunwa really does break out onto the scene next year, which definitely is a possibility. With some more time for Darnold to throw, I think Anunwa could definitely pull off some better routes and be a better pass catcher for the team. They have Isaiah Crowell. He did really well as a starting running back. He definitely had some great games for them. Again, I think for me, everything associated with Sam Darnold comes with his offensive line. The better they do, the better he will do. He didn't totally disappoint me. I think at the end of the day, you're kind of like, he did go through a lot of injuries. You want to see some better durability from a franchise quarterback. But again, what can he really do if his offensive line isn't up to snuff? So I think he deserves more of a B+, maybe a B, solid B. He performed well. Again, when he was called upon, he did okay. He showed progress throughout the season. From the beginning of the season to the end of the season, he at least was showing a better knack for not throwing interceptions. He's throwing some more accurate throws, and he really was trying to avoid traffic more often than in the beginning of the season. Obviously, I think the low point is the game against Miami. He has four interceptions, 0 touchdowns. That was a disappointing game for him and his development, seeing as it was already week 9 of the season. That was a disappointing game, definitely, but I think he definitely improved since then. He struggled through some injuries to end the season, but I think he's going to come back with a vengeance next year as long as they get some better offensive line players. If they can build the interior of the line and really just protect his blind side at both edge positions, at the guard positions, and the tackle positions, then he'd be okay. They just need more consistency out of it. And again, I think it's health overall having to do with the whole offensive side of the ball, especially, again, it starts with Darnold. We'll see how they do next year. I think he could have a strong sophomore season. Speaking about strong sophomore seasons, looking at Josh Allen. This guy, again, statistically, he's not going to pop off the page for his rookie season. He only had 10 touchdowns to 12 interceptions and 2,074 yards. His QB rating of 67.9. It's not the highest in the world, but he really impressed me with his legs, honestly. Looking at how many rushing touchdowns he had some great games. And I think the fact that he has that as a weapon, that ability to run the ball, it's going to help him throughout his young career because he's not the most accurate of passers. In fact, he's pretty horrible with his accuracy, especially seeing as he's against NFL DBs now. His accuracy is definitely not the greatest, but having that ability to run will help him with that. It's helped Cam Newton, although Cam Newton was a lot more accurate at this stage than Allen is. Allen really needs to work on his accuracy, but having that run threat will definitely help him along the way. At this point, you can't just let him throw deep. He has the ability to hurt you on the ground. He's going to be able to use that next season. Obviously, I'm mainly just talking about overall progression for this season and the grades. But in terms of fantasy, look out for this guy because this guy can eventually become a great fantasy quarterback. But we're not talking fantasy. We're talking real-life grades. I think at the end of the day, I want to give him a B minus. He did well than some people thought he did. I think some people thought he was going to be a colossal bust. And I could understand why you would think that. He's a prototypical 6'5", big arm, strong-armed quarterback, not the most accurate, has all the makings of a huge bust. To me, he didn't do that this year. He didn't just outright bust. I think he actually performed to expectations for him, given that nobody thought he was the most accurate quarterback in the world. Nobody thought he was even really going to be able to start to go into this season, to be able to take over the starting job and do a decent job. Although the team itself needs work, it's one of the least talented in the NFL in terms of a whole unit. He himself did not have the worst of seasons, and that to me is a success. As long as you don't come out this season looking like a colossal bust as Josh Allen, that's a successful season to me. I think he could have the potential to maybe have a better season next year. I think he's more of a year 3, year 4 player in terms of breaking onto the scene, but you never know. I think mainly this year, next year, they really need to focus on just developing him as a pocket passer, as an accurate passer. Maybe he can ever become that, and if he can't, I don't know if he was worth that top 10 pick. But hopefully the Buffalo coaching staff can get him can form him into a better player along the lines of Cam Newton. Josh Rosen, looking at the next quarterback picked. Rosen, looking at him, again, not the greatest statistical season, but he had Steve Wilks as the head coach. He's a defensive-minded head coach, although they had Mike McCoy at the offensive coordinator position before they let him go. McCoy was a horrible fit for Rosen to begin with. He was never going to be able to maximize Rosen's potential. And Rosen still has a ton of it in my eyes. Cliff Kingsbury, he's going to be a great coaching fit for Rosen. Could definitely do wonders with him. He needs a higher offensive coordinator. I've heard the name Hugh Jackson. I hope that's not the name they end up choosing. I hope it's just a report. But I think Cliff being in charge will definitely help Rosen's development. I don't want to do the Sean McVay, Jared Goff comparison, but I think if they keep Rosen and they don't trade for Kyler Murray, which I don't think they should, Cliff will definitely be able to at least establish a connection with Rosen on a former quarterback to current quarterback level. Hopefully they can. He has a ton of potential still. He's a lot accurate. He's in the same category of accuracy, getting close to that of a Baker Mayfield. He's not there yet. Baker is definitely more accurate at this point in their career, in their young careers. But Rosen can get there. He has the potential. He has the intelligence to do that. I think in terms of just intelligence, can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. His mind's there. He needs to get his body of work there and his just game performance there. But he's just so talented. He's just oozing talent. He's just waiting for the right coaching staff to get it out of him. And really a better offensive line. Him and Darnold, obviously the USC-UCLA competition connection, they both suffered from horrible offensive lines this year. They both need revamped offensive line units. With better players, with better offensive line players, they'll both have better seasons. I don't know if Rosen will have this breakout year that Jared Goff had in his second season with McVay, but maybe just in terms of statistics, a better season. He's not ready yet, I think, to take over the NFL or to take over an amazing Arizona Cardinals offense, but the whole offensive unit isn't there yet, and I think that's why he's limited. Give him a couple more years learning the playbook under Cliff, getting some better offensive weapons in there. Christian Kirk is a great start, obviously, to go off of, and David Johnson's obviously a great weapon too. But they need to build that whole offense as a unit still. They need to keep adding young pieces to it and figure out exactly what their team of the future is going to be. Lastly, Lamar Jackson. This guy barely had any stats in the season just because he only started the last couple of games, as well as a playoff game. Obviously, this is the future of Baltimore at the quarterback position. They're going to be looking to move from Joe Flacco, as reported by a lot of their insiders. So if they're moving on from Flacco and they're just basically anointing Lamar Jackson as the next starting quarterback, he had an okay season. This isn't somebody who's going to put up the same statistics he did in college with the 30-plus touchdowns in a season. I don't think he's ever going to get to that point in the NFL. But again, he's a dual threat, can hurt you with his legs, can hurt you with some deep passing. He needs to work on his accuracy, but he showed enough in the last couple of seasons and the last couple of weeks to think that he can be a semi-accurate enough quarterback for a contender. I think the Ravens definitely surprised this year due to a dominant defense. We'll see if they can keep it up next season. I see a lot of websites primarily saying that the Ravens are one of the bigger teams projected to take a step back next season. That's entirely contingent on their defense and the weapons that they can get for Lamar Jackson. The more offensive weapons you have around him, the better he will do. That's the case for any quarterback, but especially a young quarterback that struggles with accuracy. So I think it's with Jackson, he can be a great quarterback. I think watching him versus Mayfield in that division is going to be amazing for the next couple of years. And I totally forgot. I forgot to give you guys the grades I had for Rosen. Rosen, again, I'm going to give him a C-, mainly just because of the coaching staff. He did as much as he possibly could with the staff and offensive line that he had. He struggled mightily in some games. He needs to work on his poise in the pocket. I think when he gets this is for any quarterback, but he's getting rattled primarily because of his offensive line. He needs to really just work on getting out of the pocket, trying to scramble better, using his legs as an option. He has the athletic ability to do so. So if he can't rely on that offensive line, even looking at Lamar Jackson, if he has to escape the pocket and run for it, same as Josh Allen, he needs to learn to develop that running ability and make himself a true dual threat quarterback to stay healthy and stay out of harm's way in the pocket if the pocket's collapsing as much as it was. Rosen, again, I'm going to be looking to do the C-, D+ just because of the overall season the Cardinals had. Lamar Jackson, I don't have that much of a sample size to go off of. It was only the end of the season in the playoffs, although in that short amount of time, he did enough for me to give him, I would say, a B+. He did great. I mean, he got him to the playoffs, didn't have the best stats, didn't have to because of the defense and the running game for Baltimore. Next season will be a huge challenge for him. We'll see what he can do when all the pressure's on top of him. But, under the bright lights is where stars are made. We'll see if he has what it takes. He may struggle in his sophomore season. That's definitely a real possibility. But in the short time that I saw him, I'd give him a B+ based on that. It's not the largest sample size in the world, but it will do. And with that in mind, those are just my grades for the rookie quarterbacks this past season. We'll see what they can do in their sophomore seasons, and we'll also see what the new incoming batch of rookie quarterbacks, although not as impressive as this one, can do with their time to shine next season. So until then, this is going to be episode 2 of the Cal's Call New Videos channel series. Thank you for joining in. I'll talk to you guys soon.